दे आर फ्रॉम नेशनल एंड 90 रिसर्च पेपर्स जो हैं वो इनके इंटरनेशनल हैं। इन्होंने जो है इनवाइटेड टॉक्स जो हैं वो 263 इनकी इनवाइटेड टॉक्स हैं, और जिसके अंदर जो नेशनल 220 और इंटरनेशनल भी इनकी जो है 43 इनवाइटेड टॉक्स हैं, जिनके अंदर हांगकांग, चाइना, जापान, लंदन, वेल्स, नीदरलैंड, सिंगापुर, स्पेन, इटली, साउथ अफ्रीका, स्विट्जरलैंड, यूएसए, कनाडा, ताइवान। तो कहने का भाव है कि शायद ही वर्ल्ड का कोई कॉर्नर होगा जहां पे डॉक्टर साहब को जो है वो ना बुलाया गया हो। तो इनके पास बहुत एक्सपर्टाइज है। तो मैं आपका ज्यादा ना समय लेता हुआ मैं अपनी ओर से और अपने सभी साथियों की ओर से डॉक्टर साहब आपका हार्दिक अभिनंदन है, और मैं चाहूंगा कि अब हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को आप एड्रेस करें ताकि उनको इस फील्ड के अंदर जो है वो फायदा हो। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ji. So much has been said by our principal, sir. So I would not stand long between you and the speaker of the day. So I request sir to start with the today's session. Over to
Puneet,
Dr.
allow me to share my screen because you have just
Sir, sure, sir, sir, just wait.
allow it.
Ji, sir.
So thank you, Principal Sir. It is a nice meeting you on screen, virtual meeting. Maybe sometime I will travel to Amritsar and other places. I'll come to you and see you.
Most welcome, sir. Most welcome.
So very good afternoon to all of you. Puneet specially requested that, sir, you have to speak on gender, and particularly gender and climate change adaptation. So many of us, particularly students, may, they'll be bothering that what's this gender adaptation and all that. All of you know that what is gender adaptation. It refers to society, socially constructed norms and relations that a given society considers appropriate for men and women. And gender determines what is expected, permitted, and valued in a woman or a man. So this is general, but our gurus, our Vedas, our religious scriptures are full of many things. The most beautiful thing I found in my own religion, Sikh religion, when Guru Nanak said 550 years back, "So kyo manda akhiye, jit jame rajan." And all of us respect Mother Nature, our own mother. You see, when we talk about mother, everything comes, we have not seen God, but we have all seen mother. And when we have seen mother, you can expect that every kid, all of us, they relish whole of their life. माँ की जो गोद है, गुरु नानक ने तो धरती को भी माँ ही कहा है। पवन गुरु पानी पिता माता तरत महत। आज बात करेंगे हम क्लाइमेट चेंज की, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की और जेंडर की। So, शुरू इसलिए यहां से किया है कि जेंडर अडेप्टेशन was already there with us for 550 years. But UNESCO or our international climate change panels, they decided they took a very long time. Reason being, so many catastrophic events there in world. Every year we are facing it. Recently we have seen that what has happened in Kerala and what has happened in our 2-3 years back in Uttarakhand, and recently in Chennai and other areas and Odisha. All these climatic disturbances and all these kind of tsunamis, they are bringing us so many disasters. If I say that 30 new diseases, they have come during the last 15 years, and the present pandemic, particularly COVID-19, has totally changed our lives. All these viruses, maybe last year in 19 or 18, it was particularly Nipah virus. which erupted in Kerala, it was again from bats. West Nile virus in many areas, Ebola virus, dengue hemorrhagic fever, and so many other viruses, dengue, and this is hantavirus. All these viruses, they are coming, and all these zoonotic diseases, they are increasing. That 30 new diseases have come up during the last 10, 15 years. Too much population, we are already crossing almost 7.5 billion, and very soon will be 9 billion. And imagine when so much population, and half of the population will be living in India and China. Most of the diseases will be striking us. So this particular phase, which is feeling for the last 10 to 12 months, that's very strange. So International Government Panel and Climate Change, that is the body, intergovernmental body of United Nations, they thought it, that they have done so much bad for, gender adaptation. Mother, who is the main, when we talk about capacity building, when we talk about learning processes, just you saw that Sati Pratha. This was again connected with the Guruji. Guru Amar Das stopped this Sati Pratha. In Indian culture, it was there. So Guru Nanak, when he said, "Sokyo manda akhiye jit jame rajan, rajaon ki janani," usko aap kaise bura kaise? That was also great gender adaptation. Or ye discrimination or ye sab. Reason being, in tsunami, 1 lakh women died in Indonesia because they could not swim. They were not allowed to. They are in burqas and all that. They were never allowed to swim. 2 lakh women, they die in India and most of the other regions of the world because they don't know about the chlorofluorocarbons and the burning mass. Agithi jalate hain aur mar jate hain. So dedicated, objective and scientific view of climate change and its natural, political and economic impacts and risks and possible response options, we needed that kind of gender adaptation, which was taken by government in 1988 when World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Environment, they adopted it and they said, no, we have to do it. And recently, 2008 and 18, it got a lot of impact. In 2018, we had an international meeting and people have started giving importance. Climate change is a global problem and we are experiencing all water caps, our Himalaya, even Arctic, Antarctic regions. We have melting glaciers. 449 icy square kilometers of glaciers, they have melted in India since 1962. And 466 glaciers, they are still melting. So sea level is rising. Maldives people, they had a meeting underwater. They said, we will be not on this planet, please save us. So these kind of things are going on. So it's a systematic change in the long term. So that means when all this is happening, systematic change happening in the long-term state of the atmosphere over multiple decades, and we are now experiencing it everywhere in the world. People are facing it. Global warming is there. Impact is very large. When you see, I told you about so many diseases have come up, so many things are coming up, more pests, more vectors are coming up, more diseases are coming up. Insects, they are ectothermic. And that's what the doctor has ordered for them. They're flourishing in this slight change in the temperature. And when we need our fair sex, opposite sex, in all over the world to give us responsibility and to understand all these things. So the purpose was very clear. That's what we started very late when the IPCC and all that. Because this climate change and global warming is affecting your food security. At present, we are facing a very big agitation from farmers. Now, after 2039, there will be no water left to irrigate the fields in Punjab and Haryana. And when there will be no water left, how irrigation will be there, how food will be there, You'll have to go for other foods like insect and all that. More floods, more droughts, more diseases, more pests, more vectors, and more vector-borne diseases. They are going to be there, particularly in our Asia. And as I told you, because 50% of the population will be living in India and China will be facing more heat. Indian heat wave killed 2,000 people in India. Imagine, number is in front of you. Andhra Pradesh, 1,636 people, they died. I was taking a Serb school as a director in particularly Hyderabad in 2016. I was, it was amazing that water was being brought in the tankers to us. There was no water to drink in December. In Chennai, 2019 June was declared as a black day, and one day there no water came to the taps. And Bangalore, the water situation is very, very, you can say, scaring. So this is going to be the condition in India after 2039. Lot of food and security problems are going to be there. So out of these 2,000 people, you see this large number of people, they died in Andhra Pradesh. And water problem is acute even in states like Maharashtra and others. So what I want to say, that due to this global warming, climate change, we are going to suffer more. We are deforesting our forests. We are burning our forests. Amazon was burning for many months. And we lost a lot of animals, a lot of species. Similarly, we lost a lot of species in Australia. Now California was burning. Our Uttarakhand burns every time. So we are facing all these kind of problems. Something is happening to slide, don't bother. I'll make it, correct it. Yeah, it's okay. Some net problem is seems to be there. Puneet, is it from my side or your side? I don't understand.
Sir, it is visible, no problem at all. It is visible to us.
But slide is not moving further. Some technical. Anyway, try to correct it.
Kindly check now, sir. Actually, there's a laxity problem there on the end of the Dr. Jagbir. So he will be joining just in a minute.
Sorry, I don't know what happened, but something serious happened that I have to close my set and then make it. Is the screen available?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Let's go back. Sorry, students and others. It happened. Some technical problem happened. Slides were not moving fast, and so something happened. So we discussed about gender adaptation. We discussed about some climate change problem, and how IPCC has they have started it, and how climate change and what are going to be the problems, food loss, this and that, and diseases. And so what I want to say is that all these kind of unusual weathers, we call it as freaky weathers, they are happening all over the world. More tornadoes, more kind of catastrophic events. Almost every year we are struck by different kind of typhoons. You see, when I talk about all these things, the experience from the last 15 to 20 years, you see more people are being displaced all over the world because of the floods, because of the heavy rain. There is a lot of shifting as far as rainfall is concerned. You see, when we say about pests and other things, about 8 lakh people got displaced in your Kerala tragedy, and imagine how many got disturbed in your other tragedies like Uttarakhand tragedies. 10,000 people died. So it's almost happening every year, and in Kashmir so many people got killed. In America only 1,836 people lost their lives in Katrina, and there was hue and cry. Then you have small other casualties a long time back in Cuba hurricane in 1900, and that means this process is happening since centuries. These are some of the these catastrophic events. Then you have tsunami and others. So all this experience to the international scientists and these panelists, they stuck with this. There is a very less presentation, very less involvement of women as far as all these things are concerned when you talk about climate change and global warming. Now in India and other, particularly Gujarat, we are facing all these kind of things, drought that can bring a lot of bad things to us, adverse consequences. Water supply, as I've already told you, that there's been no water in Punjab, Haryana after 2039. It has resulted already tens of millions of deaths in India. So it's happening not in India, in many other countries. Our resources, they are being burdened. And our women, particularly, they spend their whole life bringing water to their homes. And all the other things which are happening, sea levels, they're likely to rise, and the world is witnessing large state of disasters. And 2-3 mm per year rise is happening. And it's happening like this, that many cities are going to be lost. These are some of the scenes from your own countries, that sometimes it is too much rainfall, sometimes it is no rainfall. 15 years, if we take the data, Punjab has witnessed a lot of changes in this system. So uncertain precipitation, drought, and that has brought alarm bells to us. That's how these things are going to happen. When we talk about health problems, as I told you, that we have many new diseases, and the way we are suffering from this COVID, because too much contact we have with the wild animals, because deforestation is going at last, such a speed that we are losing 34 million trees every year from Amazons. And imagine all 17 mega biodiverse countries of the world, they are losing so much tree cover. And these 250,000 additional deaths are happening every year. So that's why malaria, diarrhea, and other waterborne diseases, vector-borne diseases, they are increasing so much. But there is no involvement of your better half, your best sex, and that's the things. And they had analyzed all these things, that there's going to be more fires, more floods, more droughts, and more hurricanes. And females, they are responsible for capacity building, even at the home level. They clean your home, they make you beautiful, and all these genetic diseases, they try to prevent it. Laxity bachani ho to maa, शिक्षा देनी हो तो मां. So कहने का मतलब है कि इसमें कितनी इन्वॉल्वमेंट जो है वुमेन की है, हम देखें तो बहुत नेग्लिजिबल है. आई एम गोइंग टू शो यू ऑल दिस थिंग्स. So this global climate change, regional weather changes, heat waves, extreme weather temperature, precipitation, air pollution levels, and the kind of development we are doing it, which we call as unstable. We have to go for, you can say, sustainable development. So health effects going to be too much on us. Temperature related illness will be too much. Death, extreme weather related health effects will be there. Air pollution type of health effects will be there. Water and food-borne diseases, vector and waterborne diseases, they are going to be too much. So when all this is happening and there is a very, very small involvement of gender, particularly female gender, why gender, why climate change? That's the question comes to everybody's mind. You find all these women, how they're doing farming, labor in India. And you see, when you talk about even our Hindu religion, you have goddesses everywhere. Women, they have been most important and challenging role in the globe. She's a mother, she's a better half, she's a guide for future generations. All those girls who are listening it, and I tell you, they have to know it, because Brigham Young said, when you educate a man, you educate a man. But when you educate a woman, you educate generations. I think all of you will agree with me. और हमारा जो Indian culture है, Puneet is my student. Puneet can tell that how daughters are important. एक तो इस तरफ की सारी फैमिली को पूरा मतलब शिक्षा और उसको मतलब बना देना और आगे जाके ससुराल में बना देना. तो यंग ने जब कहा होगा, सोचा होगा, क्योंकि वो तो बुरा है, पर how women they can educate generations. So that means हमारा तो पहले ही रिलीजन ये सब चीजें इतनी इज्जत करता है, हर मतलब माता की अगर आप पिक्चर ले लो. So women from 50% of our entire population, 2/3 of the total work done by women in the globe, but they receive only 1/10 of the world's total income. That's amazing. And when you have the literacy rate, 2/3 of the world's illiterate adults are women. Just imagine. This data was compiled by in 2015, and again people are compiling it. So that means 2/3 of the world's women, which are adults, they are illiterate. And when 50% of your population are illiterate, how you are going to have understand about climate change, global warming, and adopt all these kind of actions? Only 1% of the world assets, they are possessed by women. That is a FO report. Latin America and Caribbean, you see the colors, both the colors, male and female. Everywhere male color, which is slight pinkish type, and that's so much. You see South Asia, Southeast Asia, North Africa, West Asia, Oceania, everywhere share of male and female landowners in main developing region, female has a very, very less population and less percentage. So that's very amazing. And 1/4 of the world's families, they are headed by women in the globe. Indian women, there have been a lot of restriction. Indians तो फिर भी अच्छे हैं. अगर आप बात करो most of these countries, Muslim countries, particularly आपका जो Middle East है, अभी तक बुर्के से बाहर नहीं आते वो. Marriage is the only actual bondage that is known to our law. They remain as legal. They're no legal slaves, but they remain as slaves. So that's a very sad part of those countries. Now you see low proportion of women in research and higher education. You can see the colors. Men, navy blue, and the other blue, sky blue. Just find the difference. Women and men, there is a lot of difference. Increase in the number of the workers is between 25 to 64 in scientific and non-scientific occupations from 91 to 2011. This is the graph. So that means when we talk about gender adaptation, we really live in another world. Male dominant society and gender discrimination, customized habituality in India, not only in India and rest of the Middle East and many parts of the world also. Abortion of female gravida with the help of scanning and all that. You know that how many males and females are there in Punjab and Haryana. Situation was very bad, but now slightly we are coming out of it. I think it will take many more years. Female feticide and giving the kind of liquid extract from cactus and other things, and giving all those kind of medicines by these choda shop doctors and all that. Denial of education, early marriage, dowry and sexual harassment, all these things they are suffering. So gender impacts of climate change have been identified as the issues requiring greater attention. And that greater attention can be given if we involve our female gender, our women. Gender norms, roles, and relations are important factors in determining vulnerability and adaptive capacity to the health impacts of climate change. So this meeting was held in 2018 in the March, empowering rural women and girls. So that means when we talk about all these things, we really believe and we admit there is a lot of problem in this area. How climate changes, they will affect gender. How do you think it is going to impact it? That's we'll be now talking about. That means women in developing countries, they're highly dependent upon on the local and natural resources. Women facing hardship to secure water, food for the family. जैसे मैंने बताया था, पूरे का पूरा दिन उनका पानी घर में इकट्ठा करने के लिए निकल जाता है. इंडिया में हर स्टेट में मैंने तो जो फैक्चुअली देखा है, वुमेन दे एक्सपीरियंस अनइक्वल एक्सेस. थोड़ी सी मैंने एग्जांपल्स आपको दी, कितनी पावर वो शेयर करती हैं, 1/10 उनको इनकम पे की जाती है. वुमेन एक्सपीरियंस अनइक्वल एक्सेस टू रिसोर्सेज and they also in decision making processes with limited mobility in the rural area. So this is happening in front of us, and we are talking about modern India, and still it is there. Women's and men's vulnerability to the impact of extreme climate event is determined not only by biology but also by differences in their social roles and responsibilities. So if all this is due, that means they suffer from more impacts: physical impacts, emotional impacts, socio-economic impacts. When we talk about physical impacts, soreness, sleep disturbance, eating disturbance, gynecological problems, injuries, miscarriages, aches, pains, emotional anxiety and fear. So degradation is going on in every level. So shame kind of things, embarrassment, no toilets are there. People are moving in open areas. Women particularly, they don't have toilets in the villages still. Modi government started this, but still India has to suffer from this. Then you have socio-economic impacts. There are a lot in front of your screen. So if we'll discuss each and one, then the time will be going very fast. And all these things. So gender-based vulnerability to climate change. Vulnerability is the degree to which a system is susceptible to and unable to cope with the adverse impacts. That's as per IPCC in 2007. And we talk about vulnerability, material, economic vulnerability, lack to access. As I said, that there is no proper equal you can benefit to both sexes. They lack resource. Social vulnerability, distinguishing of social patterns. Ecological vulnerability, degradation of the environment. Organization vulnerability, lack of strong national and local international structures. कहीं भी उनको भागीदारी मिलती नहीं है. Education vulnerability, lack of access to information and knowledge. School dropout, शुरू से ही लड़कियों को drop out कर दिया जाता है, पढ़ने नहीं दिया जाता. The moment गांव में 10th 9th क्लास में बच्चा है, घर का काम करो. Attitudinal and motivational vulnerability, political vulnerability, limited access to political power. कितनी औरतें हैं जो हमारी विधानसभा में हैं. All governments they are saying that आप 30% रिजर्वेशन करनी है. मोदी गवर्नमेंट also said, पुरानी कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट ने भी कहा, लेकिन they are not there. 15-16%, किसी में 10%. ये पिक्चर देख के आप हिल जाएंगे कि देखिए वुमेन सारा दिन पानी कैसे, मतलब ये अपने इंडिया के सीन है. ड्रॉट एंड erratic रेनफॉल, और इसके बगैर मतलब पानी ढोना सारा दिन. That's a further burden on the woman. ये सारी चीजें मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूं कि मतलब हम बात करते हैं जेंडर अडेप्टेशन की और कल्चरल स्टिग्मास. Women are not taught about life-saving skills. That's what I told you. In tsunami in 2005, Indonesia, they killed more women than the men. And almost 1 lakh women died. So that is happening everywhere in the world. As I told you, most of the rural girls are withdrawn from the schools. School and education. Boys, they are sent, but women, when we talk about them, and then natural disaster and wars, again they suffer. Women displacement in the camps, you know it, the wars. How the armies, how the other people, how the Pakistan did it in 1971. Yesterday we celebrated that day. How India got victory. But behind that, there are a lot of stories for sexual harassment and women displacement in the camp. Similarly, in the wars all over the world. And they got sexually transmitted diseases for these unwanted pregnancies due to sexual assault in times of such emergencies. So those things we discussed, that how they suffer. Then high risk of vector and vector-borne diseases because they remain at home. Women and children, they suffer more. When you take about the data, in India, more women died because of Japanese, more children die of Japanese encephalitis because Aedes aegypti, which lives around you, and most of the kids, they suffer from it. And same, men go out, Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, chikungunya, dengue, women and children, their number is more because most of the time they are at home. So they are high risk to vector and vector-borne diseases. So that means how much discrimination we have done it, and we are doing it. They have been ignored in high-powered decision-making bodies. Constraints their ability in adaptation and mitigation. So that means all these things, they are suffering. Our society think if they are given equal access to resources, equal access to political power, access to equal share of money as men get it. Now, when I tell you formation of governments, in India, we have said many times, they are 33%. It's 17. There should be no disturbance, kindly. Puneet, dekho. Only 17% of the cabinet and 19% of the parliament members, they are women. And this is the world data. Inequality in education, isolated from education, religious restrictions in the education, lower levels of education and literacy limit ability to access information and preparation for disasters, for global warming, for climate change, for disasters. How they can get well prepared? How can they know about biomass burning? How can they know about chlorofluorocarbons? And this is the data. Sex-wise literacy rate among rural and urban India. You can just see the peaks from 1951 and you can go up to 2011. Rural female, you can see in the this dark brown, golden brown color, and green color for rural male, and urban female and urban male, you can see the difference. Urban female is again quite at a lower level than the males. So when we talk about unequal access to the resources, 104 countries kept women away from jobs and equal use of resources. That is the World Bank report. And that's the map. You can see how it happens in Kazakhstan, in China, how it happens in Belarus, where they work with fertilizers, work with pesticides, work with other things. Oh, this slide speaks itself that 104 countries, they kept women away from jobs and equal use of resources. 1 million women and children die every year from burning biomass, as I have said it. रात को अंगीठी जलाई, सर्दी का दिन है, आप आने वाले दिनों में अखबारों में पढ़ लोगे, हर साल की कहानी है, बहुत से बच्चे और बहुत सी औरतें और फैमिलीज तबाह हो जाती हैं. Majority of the casualties, they occur in women and children in Asia Pacific region in disasters. तो उसके मैंने कारण बताए कि they don't know, they don't have those kind of facilities, they die because they don't know how to swim, they die because they have no knowledge for that. तो कैसे वो प्रिपेयर हो पाएंगी इन डिजास्टर के लिए? ये मैंने सीन आपको जो दिखा रहा हूं, अफ्रीका का सीन है, वुमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन, मैक्सिमम पेशेंट यू विल फाइंड इन द हॉस्पिटल्स when waterborne diseases and vector-borne diseases are there in comparison to men. That's why when we say in Andhra Pradesh 200 kids died recently, in Gorakhpur how many kids died because of encephalitis, mite encephalitis? The women they are more susceptible to spinal damage and complication in pregnancies. पानी ढोते ढोते, इतना वेट करते करते, इतना वेट उठाते, स्पाइनल डैमेज हो जाती है और उनको कैसी कैसी प्रॉब्लम होती हैं. Women's poor nutritional status is a key aspect of their reduced capacity to cope with the effects of hazards. Women's nutritional status and coping capacity is very low in the world. So that's the, we see only few percent, 2-3% women who are educated and otherwise how they suffer. Trend in maternal nutrition and health services of India, that is up to 2015, this is the data. You see the BMI, ANC and institutional delivery, and you see the data, and you will find that's a lot of discrimination still going on. So when we talk about all these issues, how we can equate the women when we have to take decision, we have to make them learn about all these things. Now see the anemia prevalence in women between 15 and 49 years in different areas of India. 40%, 5 states, Punjab, Manipur, Mizoram, Goa, Kerala, 40 to 60% in Delhi and other areas. 60% only in 7 states. So that means 60% of the women in 7 states, they are so much prone to anemia. They are not getting proper meals, they are not getting proper food. Malnutrition in Indonesia is the highest high compared to the other Asian countries. You have examples over here where Indonesia, Cambodia, PNG, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and you see the number rising and rising. So this is the situation, how they are suffering in different areas. Women receive less and poor quality healthcare in comparison with the men in the world. This is again a World Bank report of 2012, and you see it's everywhere in the world. Number of maternal deaths, 2013, just see the map, just see this graph, Nepal, China, Pakistan, Indonesia, Nigeria, India, highest. So how they are suffering? Assam has the highest maternal deaths. Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Jharkhand. So you will be astonished to know all these things when we talk about gender adaptation. They suffer increased mental strain and bear the brunt of certain social constraints. For instance, they are shamed by using public latrines, as I have already told you. Being seen by men, women in the wet clothing. So they suffer on many accounts. Poverty, 60% of the world population are living in poverty line. Climate change impacts on water resources, agriculture and food security, environment and human health could exacerbate existing environmental development challenges and endanger the welfare of the millions. How you can make the things correct, how you can adopt various capacity building measures when you are ignoring women at that level. Increasing population cause extra demand of resources and competition, makes any country vulnerable to climate change. When we talk about 113 crore Indians, when we talk about 7.5 billion, and we're going to be 9 billions, and these, where the extra sources are going to come, we are not using our extra, kind of resources judiciously. So that means our country is also vulnerable to climate change and global warming, and slight changes in the temperature, they are impacting all kind of animal diversity. As I told you, most affected our insects, and insects are becoming more pests. So that's going to have direct effect on your food security. Political rigidity is one of the reasons. Susceptibility of tight, centralized political systems, implementation of the environmental policies, awareness about climate and disasters, why women are kept away, even in the developing countries. Dependency. Many countries, they are still not well equipped with the recent technologies and devices, and direct dependent on other nations for accurate information regarding climate change. The people of these countries face more vulnerability. Now, the greenhouse gases, you all know it. And how many women, how many kids, how many girls, they know it. Adaptation is a process by which individuals, families, communities, and countries deal with the impacts of climate change. What is adaptive action? Our lecture is that adaptation, gender adaptation. Adaptation is a process by which individuals, families, communities, and countries deal with the impacts of climate change and variability. It entails a range of possible policy, technological, and behavioral change. Degree to which such change may be needed is determined by the level of vulnerability, exposure, and sensitivity of a unit and its adaptive capacity. Adaptation was initially considered as a secondary and long-term option if mitigation efforts were not successful. It is now clear that some degree of adaptation is already necessary, particularly in developing countries, and this was taken up in 2008 and 2009. So that means when we talk about India, when we talk about use of, why say कि गुरु नानक ने कब स्टार्ट किया, गुरु अमरदास ने क्यों सती प्रथा बंद कराई? क्योंकि भारत में ऐसा बहुत सदियों से सोचा जाता है, ये जो बेटी को पढ़ाओ, बेटी को करो, ये आपको अपने वेदा में मिलता है. मैंने लिखा हुआ देखा वहां, जब मैं जाता हूं गुरुकुल यूनिवर्सिटी, कांगड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी हरिद्वार, वहीं से मोदी साहब उठा के बोलते हैं. सो ये बेटी पढ़ाओ कब से हम हिंदुस्तान में कर रहे हैं. Women, they are key actors in implementing positive change. When equipped with proper resources, women have the power to help their families and entire communities prepare for disasters and the negative impacts of climate change. Women have a strong body of knowledge and expertise that can be used to address the implication of climate change. The skills, experience, and capacities of women need to be harnessed alongside those of men by these implementing climate smart disaster risk reduction programs. So why gender-based adaptation? Because women, they can play a very, very important role because they are the best. एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल, आ महीना चल रहा है अपना दसंबर दा, और दसंबर दे महीने दे विच थानू पता है कि साडे इंडिया च की होया सी, साडे दो साहबजादे नीहां च चना दिते गए सी, नीहां च चना दिते गए सी, लेकिन एक दादी ने, माता गुजरी ने, उन्हां नू इन्नी कि ज्यादा उन्हां दी मतलब एजुकेशन कर दित्ती सी, इस लैवल ते खड़े कर दित्ते सी कि जदों नवाब ऑफ सरहंद उन्हां नू कहंदा है कि इस्लाम कबूल करो, वो कहंदे सी अपने दादे वांगू शहीद हो जाएंगे इस देश लई, पर असीं इस्लाम कबूल नहीं करांगे. वो एजुकेशन, वो अडैप्टेशन, वो कित्थों आई? वो फैमिली चों आई. ये बहुत अगले दिन जिहड़े आ वो आउण वाले आ. गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी ने वुमन नू की दर्जा दिता जदों उन्हां ने खालसा बनाया ते पतासे घोल के उन्हां दी माता ने, उन्हां दी वाइफ ने विच पाए कि वो खालसा पंथ बनाया कि इन्ना मिठा रहे. सो बड़ियां हिस्टोरिक गल्लां ने. इसे तरह साडी चाहे देवी मां, दुर्गा मां, काली माता, सारियां माता, असीं क्यों आपां लक्ष्मी दी पूजा करदे हां, लेकिन ਇਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੇ ਇੱਧਰ ਵੀ ਜੈਂਡਰ ਅਡੈਪਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ, ਹਾਊ ਵੀ ਕੈਨ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਆਲ ਥੀਸ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਸਟਰਸ. ਸੋ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਥਿੰਕ ਆਲ ਥੀਸ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਫਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਥਿੰਕ, ਸੋ ਵੂਮਨ they why gender based adaptation, because it's really needed. That's why कितनी टाइम लग गया कि 2009 तो बाद ये शुरू होया. You see, women are essential. Women's, their coping ability is often a measure of their community's capacity to adapt. You can recognize this woman, how much work she did it. Wangari Maathai. Do you know, guys, how Kalpana Chawla, when she got stuck with that disaster, उनकी डेथ हुई तो कितना कुछ छोड़ गई हैं वो एनवायरनमेंट के लिए. Women were the first to find potable water during a prolonged drought in Micronesia. And that, Wangari Maathai successfully implemented the Green Belt movement, now one of the leading worldwide climate change projects. So, जहां जहां मौका मिला है, चाहे कल्पना चावला को मिला है, चली गई दुनिया से, लेकिन आज भी मतलब हम उसको याद करते हैं क्योंकि she has left a lot of money for environment. Shahina Begum, if women are aware, their families can be saved from many losses, and women themselves are saved from a lot of suffering. Choti choti cheezein, role of women in adaptive actions. Saving water in domestic use. हर वक्त माँ आपको टोकती रहेगी, बच्चे ऐसे नहीं करो, पानी वेस्ट हो रहा है. कहाँ से आती है ये एजुकेशन? The wise utilization of water in domestic can solve water crisis problems, and women mostly deal with water for all type of washing and cleaning in the houses. How much role they can play. और पानी तो अपने पास रहना ही नहीं है. That's why I say, एक पोइट ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਰੁੱਖ ਬਦਲੇ ਨੇ ਹਵਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ, ਬੂੰਦ ਬੂੰਦ ਨੂੰ ਤਰਸਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੁੱਤ ਦਰਿਆਵਾਂ ਦੇ. ਪੁਨੀਤ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਫਾਰਮਰ ਆ ਔਰ ਮੈਂ 60 ਸਾਲ ਚ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ, ਅੱਜ ਆਰਓ ਦਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਪੀ ਰਹੇ, ਕਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਧੇ ਦਰੀ ਤੋਂ ਕਾਂਜਲੀ ਤੋਂ ਪਾਣੀ ਵਾਡਾਂ ਚੋਂ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ. ਅੱਜ ਕੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਹੋ ਗਈ. ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਗਲੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਆ, ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੂਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਨਵੋਲਵ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਣੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਕੈਪਸੂਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਕਰੇਗਾ. ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਸੇਵ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ, ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਸਾਰਾ ਦਿਨ, ਬੇਟਾ ਉਹ ਬਲਬ ਜਗਦਾ, ਇਹ ਬਲਬ ਜਗਦਾ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਬੰਦ ਕਰੋ. Majority of the women, they spend their time at home and they save electricity by sharp eyes on each and every bulb and connection. This act of women help in extra burden of electricity demand. So you see the kind of roles they play. So all these things, they are happening with us, and we know that. Hello Puri, hello Puneet. Hello.
हाँ जी sir.
My voice is clear?
Yes sir, yes, it's coming.
बिल्कुल ਹੁਣ तक चलता रहा, लेकिन फिर एक हल्की जी डिस्टर्बेंस हो, स्लाइड अगे शायद नहीं जा रही, शायद एक मिनट आवे, पर इट विल बी ओके. देखते हैं. किते किते ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਤੇ ਅੱਜਕੱਲ 2-3 ਦਿਨ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਤੇ ਗੜਬੜ ਜੀ. ਸਲਾਈਡ ਜੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਪਿੱਛੋਂ ਨੈਟ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਫਾਸਟ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਚੇਂਜ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰੀ ਵੀ ਸਮਝ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਹੈ. So give me just 1 minute break, and yeah, 1 minute, I'll start it again. The gender adaptation, otherwise how we are going to suffer it, and not we are suffering at the levels of diseases and other things, and many issues which are very serious. And if we involve women, if we involve all our girls, and I told you that how we can change this generation, and we can really make this world wonderful, because until and unless we do it, we are going to suffer. I've given you some of the examples with the help of slides, and how women, they are helping daily us at home, how beautifully they clean the house, and a lot of genetic diseases and a lot of these vector-borne diseases, they really take care of all these things. They clean the households, and they reduces the risk of pathogenicity and vectors at home. And you see, if you see farming, production, even household crops and livestock production, they have a greater role. Even if you talk about the gender sensitive approaches, how many organizations they are taking part in that we have to raise that kind of awareness in communities, how a changing climate may affect men and women and livelihoods in short, medium and long term. So we have to adapt all these actions in principle, because let potential of women that has to come out, otherwise the things will not change. And encourage females, encourage girls to go for all kind of these changes. Otherwise they start, when they start from meteorological offices and government departments, they can join all that kind of community trainings and capacity building programs. Women often feel more comfortable talking to women, so they should be encouraged in all levels. And all disaster training and education programs, they have to be run in the villages at various places. involvement of women at all levels. Now we are supporting women a lot. Up to 50 years, we are giving them projects so that we have to make them, not vulnerable to all these things. They are given projects, they are giving some jobs, but this is very less in India. Government has to do more fun. We have to encourage men and women to be meaningfully involved in decision making process, and women, they have to be given their share, because she can do everything but men can do. And you see, but the way they are paid, the way I have shown you all these things, that's very less amount. Equitable finance for climate change is to be given, so that presenting experience from South and launching new case studies, that's a must. And this is happening in most of the South Asia, and they are giving more and more importance. And world has to. This is our own studies from our university. Women, farmland, mostly from farmhouses and others, there's a really crisis. They are not being paid equivalent to men, and you can go for all these stories. They are enough. So we have to boost their productivity. Unfair deal for farm lands in Punjab, and particularly giving very less amount to female. Include both male and female perspectives and sex disaggregated data in solution analysis. Develop and apply gender sensitive criteria. Include statistics on women as well as on men, and capitalize on skills of both women and men, and set targets for women involvement in all these activities. And we have to prioritize women's equality, access to information, focus on gender differences in capabilities to cope with climate change adaptation and mitigation. Ensure that risk assessments are informed by a gender analysis. Build objectives on gender equality and women's empowerment into plans and budgets of program. So we have to pay them more. We have to take care of them. Otherwise, things will not make. Assess the different implication of planned programs, and proactively seek out and engage appropriate women's right organizations and female community. Ensure that women participate equally and actively alongside men, and monitor and evaluate changes in gender relations. And we have to do all these things. And if we take all these adaptation and processes, I think we are going to, and these are some of the stories. I can make it more, but anyway, already lost 3-4 minutes. So that's what I wanted to say, is that we have to involve women at all levels. Otherwise, we are going to suffer. And if we do proper gender and climate change adaptation, will be successful. That's what I have to say. And now any kind of interaction, I'm ready. Thank you very much. I think girls particularly, and women who are listening, they have to think that they have to do all these kind of capacity building programs. They have to start it fresh, and we can really make change as far as global warming is concerned. Thank you, Puneet. Sorry for 2 disturbances, but that was beyond my control.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir. It was really an eye-opening webinar. And I think you had touched each and every topic regarding gender adaptation as well as the climate change, and fully justified your talk by giving such lively examples. And now I shift to the organizing secretary, Dr. Deepak Vadhavan. Dr. Deepak Vadhavan, sir, kindly unmute.
Yes, sir. So, am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir, yes.
Sir, it was such a wonderful experience to have you around in DAV College in another format, in a webinar.
That's
Sir,
my own college also. That's my own college also.
So we are really honored. We're really honored to have you around. And the way you have explained each and every aspect regarding the male dominant chauvinistic male chauvinism is there still. You are reiterating on a point that the chivalry should be there. We should be more chivalrous to the gender which is considered to be the fairest of the 2 genders, that is females. Sir, you have wonderfully explained why, the reasons. You have wonderfully explained the scientific backgrounds. Sir, we are really thankful to you for giving such a beautiful, such a informative lecture on this issue. Sir, it is my opportunity to thank all who were involved in the organization or organizing of this seminar or webinar. First and the foremost, it is our chief guest for the day, Dr. Jagbir Singh, who is a well-renowned scientist, a taxonomist, an entomologist, a philanthropist who has been working in all fields related to zoology. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming here. We are also thankful to our principal who helped us in organizing this seminar. We are more thankful to Professor Puri, who is also a student of Dr. Jagbir Singh, for organizing a seminar and requesting him to take out valuable time for our students. Again, I'm thankful to all those people who are.
I'm proud to have students like Puneet and students like Udhavan. And I'm proud of you guys. Please go on working. God bless you. Thank you so much, Puneet, giving me this opportunity.
Welcome, sir.
I recently developed this lecture, and that particularly for my female students, I always encourage them. And really, if we encourage our daughters at home, and I think we can make wonders. You have seen the situation during this one hour. I would try to make slides from datas and all that. So, but really, this the way the government has taken, I feel it's really very good, and India should lead in this. So you guys can make things to change.
You're very right. You're very right, sir. I would also like to thank the DBT coordinator, chief coordinator, Dr. Rajiv Sharma, who has been arranging, helping, guiding, and also arranging the most important, that is vitamin M, money, through grants with his efforts. We are really thankful to all of you. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Puneet. God bless.